Here at The Listening Post, we've sometimes wondered, how many of our online viewers are watching us over a VPN? How many of you are disguising your location, changing it from Beijing to Boston, from Riyadh to Reykjavik, to cover your tracks? Virtual private networks have been around for more than 2 decades now, and they were not originally developed to circumvent surveillance and censorship. They were tools for corporations and governments to connect their offices in different countries to make it easier for people to work together. But as the monitoring and control of the web have grown, a market has emerged and expanded for people to work around internet blocks and to hide their location online. Particularly popular in countries with authoritarian tendencies such as Iran, China, and Turkey, VPNs are now getting downloaded in more and more countries like Sri Lanka, across the Arab Gulf, as well as the US, as data theft, online tracking, and web blocking grow increasingly common. The Listening Post's Meenakshi Ravi now on the use and uses of VPNs.
3 months ago in Sri Lanka, social media platforms, including Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and YouTube, were suddenly inaccessible. A series of bomb attacks across the city of Colombo had security forces on high alert. The government said the online blocks were necessary to prevent misinformation from spreading. This was the second time in just over a year that social media access was cut off across the country, and it did not work very well. Sri Lankans rely on social media as a primary mode of communication, so about 1 million of them turned to their VPNs, rerouting their way virtually back onto those platforms. VPNs, virtual private networks, first came into use in 1996, and they are among the most enduring innovations in online browsing, with popularity on the rise around the world. Countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and Turkey rack up some of the highest numbers of software downloads.
Turkey is notorious for its internet censorship. Over 240,000 websites are currently blocked from Turkey. And in addition to that, over 150,000 URLs of well-known newspapers and online news media outlets like Deutsche Welle, BBC News, Turkish news outlets like Cumhuriyet, Bir Gün, Evrensel, and others. So if you're trying to access alternative news, you cannot see them from Turkey unless you use VPN. It has become part of the daily internet usage.
Very recently, for example, during the protest in Sudan, the authorities issued an internet shutdown, and a lot of people were using VPN to circumvent this censorship. It really enabled thousands and thousands of people to have access to social media, to share pictures, videos, to communicate between each other, but also with the world about what was going on in the country.
On one side, you'll have the activists and the journalists who are using VPNs to get information out of a country. Then you'll have more ordinary users who just want to watch pornography or sport, and people do that all the time. I don't know if that's legitimate use for VPNs. Obviously, some will skirt legality, but people use VPNs for all different sorts of reasons.
VPNs used to be quite complicated and difficult to set up. Now it's a matter of downloading an app, pushing a button, and even the best services are just a few dollars a month. So we certainly don't think it's a luxury. I don't think privacy and security is a luxury. So VPNs are no more a luxury than, saying, having a lock on your front door.
Over the last few years, the number of VPN services has boomed. NordVPN, Hotspot Shield, ExpressVPN, TunnelBear, CyberGhost. These are just a few of the most popular names on the market. While each VPN says it offers something different, the underlying principle is the same for all of them. It's about setting up an intermediary, a distant one, between you and the website you want to access.
So the way that a VPN works is, it's essentially a computer elsewhere in the world that you first connect to before going to the internet. So if you were in Sri Lanka, you could connect to a VPN outside of the country in the US and then go to Facebook, and then that way you can actually access these services. They also encrypt traffic as well, so anyone on the same network, be that on your home Wi-Fi, your work network, a public cafe, or even your internet service provider, they will not be able to see the websites that you're going to. It protects that. as well.
An effective VPN, first, is a VPN that works, because not all VPN work in every country. Some countries actually block access to VPNs. And secondly, it's a VPN that is secure. It means that the channel of communications and the information that transits between you and the VPN is encrypted. It means that they don't use that information or share that information with third parties.
One, you want to make sure that they have strong encryption protocols, since encryption is the key way that VPNs protect your security. Secondly, you want to make sure that a VPN has the right policies and measures in place to ensure that none of your internet activity is logged on a VPN itself or the VPN server itself, making sure that you're not exposing yourself to additional risks when you use a VPN.
The jump in VPN use hasn't gone unnoticed by governments. In countries like Belarus, Iran, Oman, and Russia, for instance, VPNs are subject to heavy restrictions. There are even some laws in place banning them. Increasingly, VPNs are coming onto authorities' radars and getting targeted.
In Turkey, VPN usage is not criminalized, so it is not illegal to use VPN services. However, Turkey amended its internet law in February 2014, and there's a provision which states that the authorities could request access blocking to VPN services. Several of these well-known VPN services are inaccessible from Turkey, and if you manage to access their websites and have an account with them, then they don't work.
In China, for example, a number of VPNs don't work, and they were actually, at some point, China was saying that it would ban all VPNs, and they did remove a lot of VPNs from the Apple Store and Google Play and so on. However, banning all VPNs would also affect the economy of a country. It would affect how a number of businesses can actually operate in a country. So it wouldn't be really wise for a government to ban all VPN, but it is indeed a concern that especially the most efficient VPNs or the most secure or rights-respecting VPN might be blocked.
Chinese authorities aren't just blocking many foreign VPN services. They've been actively pushing the use of state-approved and locally created VPNs. Users have to register to use them and explain why they need them. These services guarantee neither privacy nor anonymity. And in a country where censorship is stringent and dissent is squashed, unsecure VPNs that come with Beijing's seal of approval leave many people exposed. But it isn't just state-sponsored or state-approved VPNs that have holes in their security. With free VPNs, it's a case of downloaders, beware.
Generally speaking, users can't really trust free VPNs. They may create a log of all the websites you visited and then sell them to a third party, perhaps an advertiser or another sort of agency. So a paid-for VPN, which is really the only way to actually do it securely, is in some ways a luxury good. It can cost anywhere from $5 to $10 to $20 a month to have this sort of additional security precaution that the vast majority of people probably aren't prepared to pay for. That being said, the barrier of entry for VPNs has dramatically decreased. You no longer have to be a technologist to use them. You can download an app onto a very cheap, low-powered Android phone, and that can provide a high level of protection as well.
VPNs have come a long way. They were initially used just by large corporations. Then they became the online tool of choice for journalists, campaigners, and political dissidents. However, as online tracking, geo-blocking, web shutdowns at random, and unsecured public web connections have increased, VPNs have become used in some of the most unexpected ways.
Turkish internet users are technologically savvy, I would say, youngsters, but the older generation as well. Now parents teach their children how to access Wikipedia through VPN so that they can do their homeworks from Turkey.
I've seen students logging into a server in a different time zone so that they can get their test results early, or K-pop fans around the world logging into a Korean server so that they can vote for their favorite band in an online poll. So some of those more esoteric use cases are surprising, but when it comes to government and state blocks, that is something that we've been seeing all around the world for the past decade and will only continue to increase.